All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome each and every one of you. And I especially welcome our presenters today, Vijay and John. So our session today is going to be for 1.5 hours. And Vijay and John have planned it beautifully with being very interactive, very conversational. So would request each and every one of you to participate to the best of your ability. There are different segues within the session today, which has been planned very meticulously by both Vijay and John to kind of help us navigate through all possible queries that we would have with coaching, what is coaching, and all of that. So, kind of with their masterful understanding of the subject, they will be able to navigate most of it for us today. Um, so I'm not sure whether how many of you know Vijay and John, but just for everybody's benefit, I will give a brief introduction. Before I do that, I would request everyone to kind of put their mics on mute, and if possible, also go off camera during the session, which could try and prevent any bandwidth issues which could possibly occur during the session. So I request everybody to kind of at least put yourselves on mute if you're not speaking. Um, so what can I say about John? So John is a master coach from ICF, has over 25 years of corporate experience. He started off in finance and then went on to international marketing and then his own training company, facilitation, coaching. So I think I run short of words if I try and expand whatever he's done in his life. So I will leave it short. And if possible, if John has the time and the inclination, he can go into depths of his experience and exposure. But least for me to say is that with his 25 plus years of experience in different facets of the corporate world and also being an entrepreneur, he has wealth of experience and we are in absolute safe hands when it comes to the subject of coaching with him. Now, when I come to Vijay, so Vijay again has a varied segments of experience. She's also a master coach from ICF and is a professional with a law degree. She's also a successful accredited mediator, coaching, of course, a volunteer leader also with Coaches for You, and has a lot of interest to her list of things that she does, wellness and life coaching, and also very passionate about everything to do with fitness, and I think it shows when you see Vijay. You can see how fit she is, and how well she carries through with all these different interests that she has in her life. So with that, I think I will hand it over to both Vijay and John to kind of take us through this session. And we will be, as I said, we will by and large be on mute. Unless and until there is an invitation from Vijay or John to kind of interact and speak, we will unmute ourselves and be even on camera. And so I'm excited to really be here. So with this, over to you, John and Vijay. Take us through this journey and wow us with what you have planned for us today.
That's a high set of expectations, Anu. Vijay, you want to get started?
Go ahead, John.
No, no,
Maybe you can just set the
no, no,
context, because if
no, no. I'm actually, I'm a little apprehensive with the kind of expectations being set, but thank you, Anu, for the very kind introduction. And both Vijay and I are, really excited about this morning to spend with you all, and to hopefully give you a sense of what coaching is all about. Uh, yeah, Vijay.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Anu, for that super generous introduction. So, the thing I want to start with is this image. So I've got to sort of get it out and put it out in front of all of you, right? So when John and I were talking about doing the sequel, right? So we wanted something that I think, the kind of feeling that comes to both of us when we when we think of the magic of coaching, right? Of course, there is that fabulously generous helping space, right? Co-created space. But I think it's also more about the person who comes in seeking coaching, the client or the coachee, as some people may say. Being enabled with coaching is like taking this leap of faith. Yeah. So while it looks very sporty, and I think John and I have a bias there, I think it's just about that feeling. I think any of you who have gone through coaching before or have enabled, I know there are coaches here on this call as well. This is in some ways what your client or what the client is left with. Yeah. So is it that you can do like superhuman things? No, but being human, you can still do all of this. Yeah, so that's the broad context. And just to share a little bit about why this webinar, when we already had, I think we had close to 180 people who came in for the last webinar, and we were quite overjoyed to have that kind of interaction. But we realized it was pretty, it wasn't too interactive. And I think our, fundamental exploration was like that. We had to, from the ground up, share our experiences and clarify a few basics. And then we realized there were lots of questions and we didn't do justice to them. And so we thought, why not we devote an entire follow-up webinar to talk about anything and everything about coaching. But I must give you a disclaimer. John and I have our answers to it, not necessarily the answers. So always take it as a perspective, right? And for any perspective, there can always be a counter perspective. And I think that's what makes life meaningful. And I don't know, hopefully we haven't planned it that way. Maybe we can bring in two perspectives, even in what the two of us share today. So that's the broad context. John, you want to say anything more in terms of what this means to you personally?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's the whole aspect about coaching is something that I got into, and then I realized, what a fabulous potential it has for human growth and basically living. And I wish I had known some of these things about coaching when I started my career, or even had a coach for that matter. And so in many ways, I'm very envious of all of you, because you have not only the knowledge, but you also have, through coachesforyou.in, access to coaches. And I think sometimes the proof of the pudding is really in the proof of the pudding is really in eating it. And many ways, I want to also encourage all of you all, for the ones especially that haven't tried out coaching, to give it a shot and see what happens. Because for me, this has been life-changing in more ways than I can imagine or even talk about. So that's what coaching is really for me. And I'm hoping that through this interaction that Vijay and I have with all of you, that you might get a glimpse of the beauty and the breadth of coaching, and be able to take it and perhaps use it in your own lives, and make yourself a better person in the process. Thanks, Vijay.
Thanks, John. So let's plunge right in. And, while we'll throw this out to everyone here to bring up whatever you want, we had some beautiful questions coming up. So while you registered for this webinar, you would have noticed that there was a box which asked you, do you have any questions? And I think it asked you up to 2 questions. So we've had some lovely questions and we want to honor those first. And so what we've done is we've combined 1 or 2 which seem very similar. So John and I are going to do a little 10 questions as we go along. Yeah. So this is the first one. What happens in a coaching chemistry session? John, you want to take that?
Sure. So, so typically what happens as a process of coaching is that before we sign up to be coached, typically the coach and the client, or sometimes we use the word called coachee, we have what is called as a chemistry session. So in case some of you who thought that you would get rid of chemistry in your 10th or your 12th, you have to contend with chemistry all your life. And this is one way for you to feel comfortable with a coach. One of the things as coaches we believe is that it is very important for you to feel comfortable working with a coach. And that is why we have this session. And if for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable, then you have a choice to decline that coach and seek another coach. In terms of specifically what happens, it's just getting to know each other. So people typically introduce themselves and talk a little more openly about who they are, and share more about themselves. And in the process, you get a sense of whether you like the person, you don't like the person, something connects or something doesn't connect. So that, in short, is what a chemistry session is all about. Vijay, I'm going to pause here and I'm going to request you if you have something more to add or something diametrically different to what I've just shared.
Yeah, not diametrically different, but I just want to add on a little bit. Some coaches may also use the word discovery. So it's not that they're two separate things. So, but you know, discovery is essentially at the heart of getting to know each other, right? Discovering each other a little bit before we plunge right in. In the last webinar, we spoke about how coaching was this beautiful partnership. And I think in any partnership, the partners need to know each other. Equally so, while I think it's a very important opportunity available for the client to figure out whether this coach is for me, right? It's as much for the coach to decide or to just think through, is there any discomfort in going ahead with the engagement? And largely so, the discomfort may sometimes come from a coach's sense that this may not be within the boundaries of coaching. So to give you an example, a client may come in saying that, I want to learn, let's say, about materials management. And in Coaches for You, we had somebody like that. So it's only the chemistry session that enables, a coach to share with the client who's new to coaching that, in coaching, coaching is not teaching or advisory. So maybe you need to, consider something else and run the coach through a client through other options available for the client. So I think discovery enables both a person fit and also a fit whether coaching is what you need. John, you're on mute.
I'm going to add another example to that. One of my first clients was actually somebody whose wife needed psychiatric help. And I got to know about this through the process of both chemistry and the first initial set of conversations. And then we were able to get her the help that she wanted because I wasn't qualified to offer psychiatric help to this person.
Yeah. Can we move on, John?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Next question again is, I think, absolutely practical and relevant. And I think a lot of coaches here would say that, especially with working professionals, this is a space, the space of navigating one's career, which comes up in coaching. So can coaching help me build a career roadmap? Short answer is certainly yes. Yeah, but there's a disclaimer. If you want to build one, right? So it's not a ready-made sort of career path for a function, or let's say, okay, you're in the sales function, so this should be your career path. That's not coaching. But coaching can really enable you to plan, yeah, your career in terms of setting a vision for yourself, understanding your strengths, understanding your interests, your passions, figuring out milestones, and also simply put, where does your career feature, in your larger journey called life? Because for each one, it's so different. So I certainly think, and I think last time we showed you some statistics on where people use coaches. And I think career was one of the top ones. I think about 35% or something like that. John?
Yeah, I can certainly vouch for that, Vijay, because I have changed careers many times, from a finance career to a marketing career to a facilitation and training career, and now combining that with a coach career. And I know that I have benefited immensely from the value of coaching to help me navigate through the cobwebs of my mind and head and see with clarity what I want to do. So yes, definitely.
Okay, so we can always come back to these questions, I think, if people, need more nuances or any specifics. Yeah, but just in the interest of time, let's do a quick run through on the 10 questions. Yeah, so John, I want you to go on this one first, because I know we've chatted that sometimes people come into us because of our vast past expertise and present.
Yeah, so thanks, Vijay, for raising this question. Um, the interesting thing about coaching is that coaching is a subject matter agnostic approach, which means that if you become a coach and you work on honing your skills and your mastery in the subject of coaching, you can effectively coach any person through literally any topic without being a subject matter expert. Because the skills that you require in coaching are to do with your listening, your ability to be present for your client, the ability to create that space of safety for your clients, and the ability to ask those questions that will allow self discovery for the clients. Yes, so to my mind, and while we have this bias that some people have, that in case I'm aspiring to be a finance person, I need a person who has been in finance to be my coach, right? So sometimes these biases are there, but and many times coaches also position themselves in certain niche areas, like a life coach or a executive coach or a leadership coach. But having said that, from what I have gleaned over the years, one can effectively coach any person literally on any topic. I'm going to pause here, Vijay.
Yeah. No, I don't think you could. I mean, I can say it better than that, John. So that's great. But I just want to add on a little bit of a practical dimension here. That sometimes, yeah. So this is what I mean. As coaches, we believe and we are trained, right? I mean, even in our coach training, for example, the ICF that most of us are accredited with, right, are credentialed with. When they talk about coach training, it's not niche specific coach training. You train on competencies. So while I think that's certainly, a coach will tell you that, when you are a client, sometimes yes, we may have biases, we may have our own comforts and discomforts. And I would say, rather than forcing yourself, ask yourself, am I comfortable? Yeah. With whether this person's background or lack of it gives me comfort or discomfort. I do know a few people who would come and say that, you know what, I actually want to work with you because you know nothing about this, right? So you're going to give me a very, very, if at all, you're going to allow me to facilitate new perspectives, right? So my only, slight difference there to what John said is sometimes as a client, if a particular experience is giving you comfort, please honor it and go with it. Yeah, but you will realize soon as you work with coaches that it does not really make a difference.
Vijay, I'm going to share a small example to talk about this point.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a reverse example, but on one of the sessions, I had a a client talked to me on the subject of adoption. Now, he didn't know that I was an adoptive father, and therefore, in many ways, I had a little more experience that I could offer him. But as a coach, what I tried to do was to keep my experience aside and to focus on the client. So in many ways, I was kind of reverse engineering the process of going into the session without knowing anything and just being curious.
Yeah, sure, John. Okay, so shall we move on?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So this is a great question. When we saw this, we loved it. What happens when a client believes destiny is the reason he does what he does? So the image says karma, right? So if karma is what governs you, or is what life is about, then where can coaching come into this kind of a perspective? So I want to start with a little bit of contexting on this one. In all our experience as coaches, and we saw this last time also, right? We are going beyond the situation or the problem or the drama or the goal the client comes in. Sure, we address it. That's also a beautiful gateway to address the growth of this person, yeah, the who that person is being. Now, when we do that in an inquiry like that, we often work with a person's very deep-seated values, beliefs, principles, and all of that. And sometimes our beliefs could actually limit us from seeing anything beyond, or limit us from even considering possibilities. So I would assume, of course, I don't know who this client is, and it would not be fair to give a sweeping kind of response. But what I'm picking up from this question is that, here is a client who is limited by a belief, which says that, there's something called destiny beyond everything else, right? So what I would do as a coach is probably offer a space for this client to explore beyond that and see what emerges. Yeah, certainly not advise, though I myself may not believe in this, saying that, no, I think, destiny is not everything, because then it becomes that, that client's beliefs are just being sort of shattered, which is not what we want to do. We all have grown up with our beliefs. It's very personal to us. So even when we let go of those, you need to do it with support in a gentle way, which is what change is about. So to me, this seems like a beautiful example of where self-limiting beliefs could be explored. John?
Yeah, I agree with you, Vijay, because, something like destiny is almost like a fait accompli that people can give as a reason for even perhaps not doing the things that they should be doing, and being able to approach this at the level of their beliefs or their assumptions or their values is a great way for us to help the client understand where this whole dimension of destiny comes from.
Okay, we touched upon this the last time, which is about the difference between coaching and mentoring with examples. John, you want to lead this one, and then maybe I can come in with an example.
Sure, I'm happy to. So, when I first started coaching, I was completely confused with this whole thing about what is coaching and what is mentoring. And I mean supremely confused. So I can understand where this question is coming from. But here, I would offer a very simple definition to this difference, that coaching is to do with asking a question. Mentoring is to do with telling a person what to do. And usually the relationship between the two is that a mentor takes a superior role to that of their mentee, whereas in the coaching role, it's one of a partnership and one of equals. A mentor usually comes with a lot of subject matter knowledge, a coach may or may not have that subject matter knowledge. I'm going to pause here, Vijay, and I'm going to allow you to see what you would like to add to that.
Yeah. So the one other thing that I want to add is often mentoring also hinges on experience. So which is why usually, while I know reverse mentoring is a thing, right? Usually you would, to get mentored, go to a person who you believe not just has the expertise, but a lot of gray hair to account for it, right? Does it mean to say that people who don't are not so old can't be mentors? No, that's not what I'm saying. But largely, if you go back to times when these kind of professions were not there, right? Mentoring in families would be done by the mothers, the grandmothers, right? Generations ahead. When you got stuck, you would go to somebody who was older, somebody who's seen more of life than you have, asking for, what did you do? The only thing is sometimes their life experience may not necessarily sort of be a ready-made answer for your struggle, right? That being said, I think mentoring again, is a wonderful support system that's available usually in organizations where even coaching is not there. There are organizations that are very strong on mentoring cultures, right? When you have a new recruit coming in, oftentimes that person is mentored by somebody who's gone through that path, usually by somebody in a similar function or domain, etc., to enable the person to learn the ropes quicker. So just want to bring in another example, right? I mean, I know that some of us coaches also wear the hat of mentors, right? But I think it's important for us to draw a line saying when are you mentoring and when are you coaching? So, in my own wellness coaching practice, usually when people get into technical aspects of knowing something about fitness or what should they do or a meal plan or something like that, I would often encourage them not really to rely on my experience and my knowledge. Yeah. However, when I contract with somebody as a wellness mentor, I would go into all these domains. But even in mentoring, it's not, giving somebody a fixed formula saying, this is what is going to work for you, right? It's about sharing that this worked for me. But, I have a different lifestyle. I have different goals. I have a different body type. If it works for you, by all means, take it. So that's an example that I just wanted to bring in because in the space of wellness, I wear both hats and it's very important not to get confused. Can I move, John?
Yes, please.
Yes. Next one. How does one select a coach? John, you first. How do people select you?
Oh. So this goes back to the first question that you raised, Vijay, which is this whole aspect about the chemistry session. So if I think about how people have selected me, sometimes it has been for the experience that I've had in the past. So for example, my finance experience as an example. But I've also done a lot of work with people where this hasn't mattered, and it has all boiled down to what we call the chemistry session. But typically, and especially in India, given the Guru Shishya Parampara and the respect that we have for teachers and elders, people usually want to select someone that has worked at least for some part in their own domain. Like we spoke about earlier, the fact that you can coach somebody on a topic has got nothing to do with your subject matter experience or expertise. But I think that's where some of these biases creep in, and it is entirely understandable given the fact that there is a certain degree of comfort that people draw from having or knowing people know a part of their struggles, um, and therefore feel a little more comfortable. So to give you an example, if someone had to seek a coach for some parental coaching, they might want to look at a parent who's a coach. If not for anything, the fact that this parent might have a little more understanding about their peculiar or unique situation. Vijay, I'm going to pause here and I'm going to allow you to share some of your thoughts.
It's interesting, John. Couple of years ago, when of course, it was not a coaching program, but a single coaching conversation for a parenting dilemma. And it wasn't even planned, right? But it so happened that we got into a coaching conversation. Yeah, I mean, the other person is a coach, and this person is not a parent. I cannot tell you how empowered I felt after that session. I realized all my conversations, whether mentoring or even checking in conversations, were all with my friends who are parents. So, the worldview can be very limited, right? So my beliefs, some of my fundamental, and I did not even realize I was getting self-limited, was shattered in such a, simple way, without even being realized they were getting shattered. So that's the day I realized that sometimes, getting coached by somebody. So if I were to pick a coach, I think more than experience, I would certainly sort of give a big thumbs up to the comfort, right? So which is also the reason, anyone who selects a coach, and even the ICF recommends it as a best practice, that, talk to maybe 2 or 3 coaches, right? You don't have to do it every time. Sometimes it's just like love at first sight, chemistry at first conversation, right? But sometimes not. So, I know of situations where the coach is extremely experienced, right? 20, 25 years of coaching experience and all of that. But when the client goes in there, right, they are not able to be themselves. There is a sense of being intimidated sometimes, right? Nothing to do with the coach. Yeah, we must understand that between these 2 people, there is a third which is there, the invisible third. And it's important to recognize and respect the wishes of that third. So it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you or with the coach if you feel that this is not working. I'm not able to go ahead, open my heart out, right? So please select a coach who you can open your heart out to. You can, completely be yourself. And yet, here's a person, even if they challenge you and question some of your assumptions and beliefs, you don't feel threatened. You should like it. That should encourage you to be more. And I must tell you, I think there is always this debate: is certification important? Yeah, it's the same debate as saying, does the doctor need medical education? Does he need certification? And I leave the rest to you to decide. Of course, it's a personal choice, but I, for one, believe, and for sure, I can tell you, the world coaching bodies which insist on a certain level of not just, hours you've trained, but also your subject matter knowledge and the depth to which you go with it. So if you are considering a coach, my recommendation would be certainly find out whether the coach has training the right way to be a coach. That's the only additional thing I wanted to say, John.
You spoke about love at first sight. I've had, I know Puneet referred to that also in the chat. I know I've had many a client who has fallen in love with me at first sight, and I know many a client has not fallen in love with me, and that has, grounded me considerably. So yes, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, and we just, take it as it comes.
All right, quickly, let's move on. I think we have 3 more questions. How can coaching lead to a learning organization? Lovely question, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's a beautiful question. Yes. Vijay, you want me to take a crack at it?
Yeah, sure. And I'll add on something after you finish.
So if I think about my own career and especially the corporate sector, and I know many of you may have passed through the portals of different companies, what I find is that because of this whole command and control regime that we have all faced over the years, that it leads to a stunting of ideas and conversations in companies. And because coaching is inherently led through the process of inquiry and asking of questions and supported by deep listening and creating a space where it allows people to express what they feel, to my mind, it would definitely lead to a more learning, more open, more inclusive kind of organization. And I would go so far as to say that, in the years that lie ahead, my vision would be to see companies having cultures of coaching. And I know that I have worked with a few companies that have actually begun on this process of getting their leaders to lead through coaching. And I think that augurs well for any organization, because one, it takes the pressure off managers to have all the elephants on their back, because it's, or monkeys on their back, because it's like people can come and ask all these questions and you take it upon yourself to respond. It's like taking all those monkeys on your back. But having a coaching approach might allow you to take those monkeys, put them on the backs of the people that work with you, and empower them and make them more resourceful to coming up with their own answers. So my sense is definitely.
But very, very nicely answered, John. Thank you. So essentially, what is a learning organization? An organization that's continuously growing, continuously evolving, right? Because at the end of the day, learning is about growth. You are expanding the horizons of your mind, which translates in the expansion of your actions and who you're being, right? So imagine if, and what does coaching say? Coaching also hinges on inquiry, but it's also a lot about being the best version of yourself, right? Maximizing your potential. And that can't happen unless you take a hard look at yourself and you're willing to evolve yourself, right? So if every person in the organization can embrace coaching, or can use a coaching style in dealing with others, then I certainly don't see any way in which the organization will not learn as a whole. So absolutely great question, and big thumbs up to this one. Next one. I think, John, you touched upon this, which is about does coaching facilitate diversity of ideas within a team? And I think I alluded to that as well, right? In the way you even pick a coach who is not like you. So you want to add anything more about that? I think we did cover it, but you want to say anything specific about coaching diversity?
This question definitely is supportive of some of the things that we shared, Vijay. Yeah, so I think we can move ahead with this.
That's right. That's right. Okay, this is again absolutely practical. A special skill, is there a special skill required for online digital coaching between coach and coachee? And today, I think in the last few months, I'm yet to know of a coach who's doing in-person coaching, right? So if that's you, please put down in the chat box. I'd love to know how you're coping with that. But today, yeah, I mean, even those clients, right? I would have a few clients who would tell me, no, we must meet over a cup of coffee for the whole coaching to be real, right? I want to be talking to a real person and all of that. But today, I think maybe necessity. But I think this question is about saying that apart from it being a necessity and the way of life, how do you actually make it effective and make it feel real, right? Real and authentic. So John, what are your, some of your hacks or, tips to coaches and clients alike to make this seamless?
Yeah, so for me, what has worked, Vijay, is I'll tell you what has worked for me. A simple call on a telephone, I with my eyes closed, and I think I can coach just as well, if not better, when I see the person. So for me, therefore, the whole aspect of digital coaching is something that is, very easily doable. I had also some years back gone to Marshall Goldsmith's site, who's one of the most eminent coach in the world. And one of the things that his research also shared is that, in a sense, there is no difference between coaching in person and coaching on the phone or a digital medium. Although there is a lot of comfort that people take from meeting face to face, and I would say that there's a lot of value in that as well, because we are, after all, are human beings, are social beings in that sense. So we need that human connect. So having said that, it is still possible, still doable, still just as effective.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I hear you, John, and I can quite relate to that. So I think, it takes two to tango, right? So comfort is not just what the coach is creating for the client, but I think it's very important for the client also to offer that comfort to the coach, right? I know this question is directed at a coach, but I think it's very important, even initially, right? To find out, for example, what are the client's preferences, right? So there are some clients who actually tell me, you know what, I don't want to be, the biggest thing of a face-to-face coaching is that I've got to turn up quite presentably, right? And I don't feel very comfortable. So I'd like to just be sitting, in my shorts and maybe even lying down on my bed. But that's what makes me comfortable, right? So it's okay to have those open conversations and ask your client, right? I'm not saying that you have to insist on video. Even ask the client. If the client does not prefer video, go off video. And there are some clients who want to see you. They want to see you human and not just hear your voice, right? They want to see you smile. They want to see how you are, because they don't want to be talking to a robo or a screen, right? So understand, and I think it's important as part of chemistry to talk about few of these things. And the other thing about, I think, virtual or digital coaching is just that also tell your client to be comfortable, right? Get a comfortable chair, a seat, whatever they want, get a cup of coffee, do all those things that you would have probably done, in a face-to-face session. So I think it is possible, but I think it's very important for both of you to be extremely comfortable so that you can dance well in that 1 hour. Okay, John, how do you start a coaching career? I think this is the last one.
The last
Yeah.
Okay. I think a lot of people have this question. And, to my mind, I would start with that question that you've asked, Vijay, whether you would like your doctor to, undergo a certification process or not. And I think there is a little rigor involved in the whole aspect of certification, and particularly the one that the International Coach Federation espouses. With their different credentialing, system of a ACC, PCC, and an MCC coach. And I think there is a certain value that you come with. There is a certain set of unchangeables, certain set of non-negotiables that you start with, and more than that, I also believe that having a certification gives you the confidence, right? And sometimes confidence is the key. That you may have all the skills and experience and all of that to back you, but somewhere if that confidence is missing, then it might tell in the way of your coaching. So therefore, I think the first thing is getting a certification. That is one aspect of the coaching part, but I want to allude to a deeper aspect of coaching that I got to experience much later in my coaching career, because there is one aspect of skills and there is another aspect of really the internal growth that happens within yourself. And for me, a big part of my whole journey of coaching had to do with this inner growth within myself, the self reflection, the change that I had to intentionally make of myself. I had to learn and unlearn and relearn a lot of things. And for me, that had the greatest impact. Um, and then, of course, it's about the whole aspect of selling, marketing yourself, creating a presence for yourself, making those calls. And Ujjwal, the marketing expert, our marketing coach expert, will tell you that you need to, make those client calls. You need to talk to people, and there is a certain relationship between the number of calls you make and the amount of business you get. And many of us as coaches are uncomfortable with selling. People say that we want people to come to us, but how will people come to know you if they don't know what you are offering? So in some ways, we got to be entrepreneurs, we got to be business folks, we got to be financially savvy, we need to have business acumen, and we need to have coaching and the skills that go with it. Because we are the product, we are selling ourselves in many ways, and that's how we actually start a coaching career. So the number of things that you would do in a regular business is what you would need to do here, but with the one caveat that you need to make sure that you feel confident and have the credentials that go with
A great perspective, John. I just want to bring in a slightly different dimension, right? I read this question also as, and I think it was there in the last webinar. We didn't get there. I don't remember the names of the participants, but who said, I'm thinking of getting into coaching. How do I know it's for me, right? So I want to talk a little bit about the attributes. And again, this is a perspective, right? So take that with a pinch of salt. So I really believe, I think coaching is not one more thing you add on to your skill set, right? Because it is such a deeply personal, and I think it's a way of being, right? As a coach, you can't sort of just come into the coaching chair and suddenly wear, your coach's hat like some sports coaches do, and just suddenly become a coach, right? It's also about saying, and I want to share 2 or 3 things from my experience, and also watching other great coaches, as to what it really takes, and everything else, right? You can pick up with hard work and effort, certification, skills, and all of that. I think the first one is a clear sort of perspective that irrespective of where things are today, tomorrow can be better. And anyone who wants to change, anyone who wants to be better, right, can go there. As long as you have a goal, there is a path to get there, right? And to believe that as a coach, you would love to partner another person to really reach a destination, irrespective of what has happened in the past. So I would say an eternal optimism, right, about the future, about life in itself. Yeah, it's about a certain hope that you carry about the world itself, and your role, saying that, this is the change I'm going to make in this world. Can you see yourself as that? And, like how the medical profession, again, says that, we are here to save a life, right? So what is that inner drive that, that motivates you, and what can you be? So that is one. Second one is, of course, some of the beautiful skills of listening to others, right? Listening to the whole person, listening to everything that they bring without judgment, or even if judgment is coming, to suspend that, right? And can you actually internalize that in some ways, right? Not as something that you struggle with. I know a lot of us who come in are so used to talking, telling, and all of that, it's difficult, but at least you want to, right? Because as long as the intent is there, you will find your path. These are, very, very, I would say, foundational elements. And ask yourself a hard-hitting question. Is it really me? Can I be this person? Because coaching is just not one more job. It's more than a profession even. It's a calling. And sure, sometimes you may not know the answers yourself. So you could work with a coach. You could have just a conversation, a mentoring conversation with a coach, and figure it out. Or even do your own, soul to soul searching and figure it out. But ask yourself that question before you start on a coaching career.
Yeah, Vijay, I completely subscribe to that view. I would go so far as to say it's almost like a sacred calling of sorts. Because if you look at a doctor who is trying to save lives, we are trying to help build and grow lives. So, in many ways, we are like doctors, but we are doctors who look at potential of people. instead of the here and now of the health of people. So in many ways, it encompasses a lot more than just the health of a person. So yes.
Sure, John. Great. So that was a good question to sort of wrap this up with. I've not been watching the chat box at all. John, what's coming up in the chat box? I mean, are there new questions? Are there comments? Anything that you think we should take here at this point?
Sure. So let me run through some of them and find out if there's anything that we can look at. Um, So, one of Shanti's question is that how important is it for a coach to identify a niche, and how does one go about identifying it?
Yeah. So you want to take that, John? Or you want me to go on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that.
Yeah.
So it all depends upon your interest, Shanti. So, for example, one of the things that I have done for myself is that position myself as an executive and leadership coach. And I've done that for two reasons. One is the extensive work experience in the corporate sector and my whole passion for leadership, which is something that I have been training and facilitating for many years. So it's a subject that I'm truly passionate about. I know, Vijay, you are very passionate about health, for example. And therefore, for you to call yourself a wellness or a health coach would be a natural extension of who you are as a person. But having said that, I would still like to go back to that earlier question that was posed and to say that when, as clients, they come to you, they may come with an executive problem, a leadership problem, but somewhere it might gravitate to a subject that you are completely unaware of. And it's absolutely okay because you can still use the skills of coaching to be able to coach a person. Because as coaches, we never mandate what a client should come to us for discussion. We always leave that choice to our clients.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have
Yeah,
anything to add,
I agree with you, John. Yeah.
okay.
John, there's another lovely question that I'm seeing from Raghuveer here. I think the comfort people look for is chemistry, trust, and connect. These are must-learn skills for coaches, isn't it? Yeah, triple thumbs up on that. Trust. So one of the competencies that we are trained to be as coaches, earlier it was trust and intimacy, and now it's been, I think, broad-based and replaced as trust and safety. To be able to cultivate this trust and safety in a coaching relationship is absolutely, the hallmark of a very good coach. Because without trust, you can be the world's best coach, but if that client is not able to trust you or feel safe with you, right? And when I mean safe, I mean psychological safety. Then the coaching is not going to go ahead at all. So I completely agree with you.
Shanti has also asked a question: how do we create a culture of learning in an organization? No, is it learning? Hold on, let me just recheck that question. How do we create a culture of coaching in an organization? Is there any thoughts that you have on this, Vijay?
Yeah, so I would actually think one, of course, we spoke about the coaching culture, right? So there are people like us, John, who are professional coaches, and we do this for a living, right? This is what we do most of our time, most of our lives. And then there are managers, leaders, there are people in other roles, right? Even parents. Why an organization, right? Let's say if a family can embrace the principles of coaching in the way they behave with each other, they work together as a family unit. I think the whole dynamics and the whole culture of that family or the organization will change. To start with, I think one, people will have a lot more positive regard for each other. Two, I think people will listen. Today, the biggest problem in organizations or in units is that people don't really listen to each other, right? I mean, and even if you hear the other person, you're not actually truly listening, right? And I think the third and the most important thing is creating a culture of empathy in the way you are being as a leader or as a teammate. Today again, empathy is often so misunderstood, right? We all know it's very different from being sympathetic, and yet people do not practice empathy very naturally. So I think in being a coach, or let's say in manifesting coaching competencies, the whole culture of organizations and teams can change.
Yeah, in fact, I will share a little story. So, in one of my coach trainings that I do for women, they started coaching their 13-year-old son. And after a heated discussion with his parents, he walked out in a huff to go and play with his friends by saying, these were his parting words. I don't agree with what you have said, and I'm very angry and upset, but I'm choosing at this moment to be not angry, and I'm choosing to be the bigger person in this relationship. And this is from a little 13-year-old child. So I think for me, that was, the crucible of coaching, as it were, where the change that coaches experience in their own lives can be translated to their families and their children. And therefore, there is no reason why something like this cannot become a complete organic movement within a company. And it involves people embracing this concept, believing in the concept, and then embracing it, and then, of course, practicing it. And there is no reason why one cannot have a coaching culture in an organization.
John, I mean, just adding on to that, I think there's, Puneet has also mentioned in one of his questions, what impact do crucible experiences have on our being self? How does our doing get impacted? How can coaching help?
I'm just trying to find the question. Can you just repeat that question?
It's pretty much the last but one. What impact do crucible experiences, I think you mentioned the word crucible, right? Have on our being self?
Oh, wow.
I'm wondering whether both of you exchange private messages.
No.
How does our doing get impacted?
That was telepathy.
I know. Yeah. So, Puneet, do you want to explain a little bit about what you mean by crucible, just to make sure that we can have...
I mean, exactly what a crucible is all about, John. I mean, changes like a sudden death of a loved one, or it could be any very difficult experience that people have gone through in their life. It could be as simple as getting fired in a job that they loved a lot, to anything which is really hard hitting in their life. So, yeah.
You also asked a question about the being, the shift in the being. There are two questions.
So, yeah, that is a separate question. What I meant was, more often than not, I look at coaching as aligning the doing and being of a person. But when we work on people, the areas of development and weakness and all those things come up during coaching sessions. Are we not trying to then go to a shift in the being level of the person? Is it even worth it to shift the being of a person? And when is that relevant? So aligning the doing and being to get resonance, I agree. But shifting the being of the person, I want to know a little more about that space from you. When does that come into play?
Puneet, I'm going to jump into this one. John, may I?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. So I think first of all, the shift of being, right, Puneet, all coaching allows you, right, is a frame or, a beautiful place where you can do it, a safe space if you want to, right? And again, it's always about choice. And as much as me as a coach may believe that, maybe, or may even pick it up, right? Saying that this person is at a crossroad of change in his whole being, right? It's still very important to hold back. when we talk, and we all know when our being shifts, nothing in the world can change that or stop it, Puneet. What I think coaching allows is, apart from a space to change doing, there is a space to grow your inner being. And let me relate it to the second question that you asked, right? And I'm going to share a personal example in my life. There was a phase in my life, right, before I embraced the world of coaching, where I went through a very sudden and tragic loss. Yeah, a loss that I think fundamentally changed who I was being, and my not just my worldview, but about how I started viewing life in itself, right? And this didn't happen overnight. While the trigger started, it took me maybe a few years to grapple and even accept that, hey, I'm changing, right? And I was even very uncomfortable and scared that I was changing. Like you said, right? Your being is who you are for so many years. And suddenly you're doing things, or doing not just physically, but you're showing up as somebody to yourself, and you wake up in the morning as someone very differently wired, right? It even shakes you up saying, am I losing my core values? What's going on, right? But indeed, the essence of life is change. And at that time, if I had a supportive, a safe relationship called coaching, formally or otherwise, I think this process of embracing the shift in being would have been far less confusing and more empowering for me. I would have just been set free, right? In some ways, I self-coached myself. And that's also one of the reasons why I think I realized that I would like to allow this space of discovery, right, for others. And can I do it? That was one of the reasons it was a turning point in my life to look and get into being a coach. So crucible experiences, absolutely yes. But I think what's important is, whether it's with a coach or with yourself, you need to find a safe space in which you can grow and embrace these experiences. Does this connect with you, Puneet?
Okay, great. So
Sorry, is somebody speaking?
Yeah.
Can you just be louder? I'm not able to hear you.
No, I think there was some background noise, Vijay.
Okay, okay.
Puneet was out of the room. So,
Okay. Got it. So such a pity he missed that, I think. Yeah. Okay, so I just want to take a quick check here, right? I know we're not doing okay on time, but I think we wanted to run through these questions. So we have a quick poll here, right? Anu, can you just pull that up? The mid-session poll.
Sure. It's launched.
Yeah.
So if you could just quickly share your responses on the poll, please, which will really help us figure out how our session proceeds from here.
Anu, I'm not able to see the poll. Can I?
yeah, unable to see the poll.
Because you are the co-host, so you.
Okay, let me
John,
pull it up.
yeah.
Let me pull it up. Yeah.
No, you, John, and me will not be able to.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Anu, we are not able to see the poll.
Anu, we can't see it.
I have already launched it.
Okay, let me try to launch it, Anu. Just 1 minute.
So it's already launched. See if you can launch it again.
Yeah. Can you all see now? No, I can't launch it.
No, we can't. We can't see. We can't see.
Okay, let me.
I've actually relaunched the poll. Check whether.
No, still nothing.
Okay, yeah, I think it's here. Can you see?
No. Negative.
Can you see it
Okay.
now?
Negative.
Okay, let's do it like this, okay? And we'll just go with a kind of virtual show of hands. Put it in your chat box. Simply, would you like to experience a mini live coaching session now or continue with more Q&A on coaching? I must tell you, there's a rider if you want to go to the first. We will probably go on till 1:15 if you take the first option. And if you take the second, we can wrap up at 1 o'clock. You can just put down in your chat box. Pari, unfortunately, I think both may not be possible. So we'll have to
Sure. No problem.
10, 15 minutes more, take
Sure.
questions.
Sure.
But yeah. The second option, Ganesh, is continue with more Q&A.
Can you now see the poll? I tried to relaunch it.
No, negative.
No,
Still
Anu, we
negative.
can't.
John, lots of ones coming in, which means a coaching session, I suppose. Yeah.
I've again tried launching the poll again.
Sorry, once again,
So,
repeat
John,
the second option.
the second option is to just continue with Q&A, Suresh. So mostly
No,
ones.
John, the poll is still not visible.
No,
That's okay. Let's
unfortunately, so let's forget about that. First option is if you want a live coaching session. Second option is if you want to continue with the Q&A.
I see more people choosing the first option.
Yeah, so let's go with it. Just want to let you know, this will close only at 1:15 and we seek your patience for that. It's going to be only half an hour coaching demo. And I'd like you to, just keep in mind, this is from a learning frame, which means that, we are here trying to see in action some of the principles and some of the processes that we spoke about in both session 1 and today. So we will disable the chat box because we are very mindful that this is not a simulated session. It's a real client with a real situation who's coming in for coaching. And usually when somebody goes into coaching, there is, absolute silence in the space. There are no interruptions, etc. And I seek your support in giving that space here to the client and the coach, and almost being totally invisible. So please put yourselves on mute and just stay with the session, watch, note down your questions, your thoughts, and we'll pick it up at the end of the session. So John here is going to be our coach for today. And just going to hand over to him, John, and I will also go off video in the spirit of not contributing to distractions.
Yeah, I'd like to invite Anand. Anand, if you can come up on screen and share your video, please. Anand?
I think he is dropped off and he's trying to connect.
It's correct, yeah. Anand Shanmuga Sundaram. Yeah, he's just connecting. Just give us a moment while he connects. Hopefully our bandwidth will be okay in that time.
As the host and the co-host, can you all give us a gallery view so we can see both of you, the coach and the client, please? This is Nandita.
Yeah, I guess we're just waiting for Anand to log in. If you can come on camera, please, Anand.
He's still connecting to his audio. Yeah.
John, you want to just check with him offline if he's having some challenge?
Yeah, let me do that. So Vijay, in the meantime, one of the things we could perhaps do is continue to answer some of the questions while I get him on the chat and talk to him. So
Yeah, sure. So I saw one question about, I think that came from George, um, which is about saying that, 1 minute, I think I missed it out. George, could you just unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
This is George. No, I wanted to, know the meaning of coach the client, not the client's issue. What is it? What does that mean?
Right. So, I think we can spend a lot of time discussing it, but I think in a nutshell, um, while coaches, right, while clients mostly bring to the coaching conversation a topic, a goal, a situation, a dilemma, or a problem that is very present and real in their lives, right? I think if you go back to the definition of coaching, it's inherently a process that maximizes potential of the person, right? Through all these life incidents and situations, there is an opportunity for every human to grow and be a better person, a better version of themselves. So in any coaching conversation, while you might coach the topic, and simply put, the topic is the what, you coach the what, yeah? But you coach the what on the person. You coach the what on the who, which means you are still continuing to work on the situation, right? But in that process, coaching touches upon the deep who of that human being. And that is what, even after the coaching is over, leaves the person empowered and resourceful to face many such situations the future may throw up, even without the need for a coach. Simply put, this is at the essence of saying, it's not that don't coach the topic. Coach the topic, but always keep in mind the person. John, you want to add on to that, or if Anand's come, do you want to start? We can also pick up the.
Thank you, Vijay. That's okay.
Anand is here, so we can start.
Thank you, George. We can pick up this offline as well.
Anand, are you able to see me, hear me?
Hi, John.
Hi, Anand. Hi.
Good afternoon. Hi,
Good
Vijay.
afternoon. So just by way of fair disclosure, I had a brief chat with Anand yesterday to just get to know him a little better. So it was part of our quote unquote chemistry session. And when I asked him the question, are you nervous about being coached in front of several people? He said, even lax will do. So Anand is a very brave guy. I hope I am as brave as him. But thank you.
When I spoke to John, like what John told, he charges 25,000. So I am getting a 25,000 session free now.
Thank you, Anand.
So I should be grateful to you for that.
Thank you, Anand. So Anand, I want to check with you a couple of things before we start. The first is whether you are comfortable being on video, or would you like to go off screen and just do audio? So
anything works for me.
Anything is work. So we can do a video session. Okay, good.
Okay.
The second thing is that this session is currently being recorded, which means that our session will also be recorded and might go into the public domain. I want to check with you whether it's okay, or should we stop the recording? We can stop the recording and then we can.
Hope I did not bore everybody with my. Some people would be thinking, this is so simple thing. Why is he not getting it?
All right. I'd like to request Vijay to come on. Thank you. Thank you, Anand, for your time and for being brave enough to volunteer for a live coaching.
Yeah. It was my pleasure, John.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anand, hats off to you, yeah, to come out there, group of strangers. Of course, I must say everybody held the space so beautifully. But I think it takes a lot. Always say the first step in one's coaching journey is courage.
Thanks,
And
Vijay.
you've taken that step, and you know, like John said, if there's any way I can help you in this journey as you go along, very happy to facilitate that later. Yeah. And you know, just in the interest of time, I don't want to really get into what came out in the coaching space and things like that. But I just want to invite you, John, for maybe, you know, in one line to say what happened to you as a coach today.
Yeah, so my focus, Vijay, was just to kind of stay present to my client and be with him in his journey. So I did not go with any assumptions, any preconceived notions, even though there's a lot of knowledge that I personally have about health and fitness and wellness, because I'm as passionate as you are on fitness and health. But this was about Anand's journey and to stay with him in that journey and help him to navigate that ship to the shore. So that's what I basically tried to do.
Beautiful, John. And to someone just listening, just observing you, I always keep saying that there's a third person in that room, right? There was a beautiful, you know, a space of trust. I think Anand took a leap of faith there. He just trusted not just you, but the space. And I think how you held his trust in the way it should be, you know, with respect. And I know how passionate you are about some of these things. How you held back. Power of a lot of silence. In that silence is where I think Anand beautifully flowed with where he is. And I can, you know, pretty much sense Anand getting onto this journey even after this session, and, you know, really taking charge in some ways, right? Coaching does allow people to be resourceful. And going back to George's question, and I want to end with that, saying the topic was about Anand's health, but what came out in the session was the strength and the beautiful human being that Anand is. And I think the more he gets strength from that human being, this journey is going to be very meaningful to him. So I thank you, John, for, I think, having held yourself so beautifully as a coach and the coaching space, and to you, Anand, again, because we say it takes two to tango. And it was a beautiful dance for all of us watching on the sidelines. So gratitude to both of you today. And if anybody has any questions specifically on coaching or the process or anything, please feel free to reach out to either me or John. I don't want to get into a learning space here. We're way past our time. And I know we've eaten into your lunch. Just want to pause there for any closing remarks from Anand, yourself, or John.
I just want to say a big thanks to Anand for being so vulnerable in our session and being so open. So I just want to say a big thank you, Anand.
Anand, are you speaking something? Because I think you're on mute. Or maybe I missed it.
Sorry, I was talking on mute. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and space to be to explore myself. And you both have been kind enough to lead me into that. As I was saying, this is an unknown area where I'm walking, so I felt safe. Thank you. And I really appreciate your time and effort into it. I'm always grateful to you both for it.
All right, everyone. Thank you for being lovely participants today, not just with the questions, but I think how beautifully everybody held the space. Nobody went unmuted. Nobody came on video. Thank you, everyone. Anu, over to you. So I think we are done with this part of the webinar.
So thanks so much. And I stand by what I said in the beginning. John and Vijay and everyone, you have really wowed yourselves, all of us. I don't have words to express. I still am in that zone of kind of in the space of the coaching conversation. So thank you so much, Vijay. Thank you so much, John. And a big thank you to you, Anand, for coming forward and, being so vulnerable and authentic in the conversation. So with that, we close our session today. I thank each one of you to have been patient and being here with us. All the questions, all the queries, there was a lot unearthed today. And we will wait for your feedback and figure out if you require further sessions within the series to go forward. And we will be happy to kind of take it from there. So with that, have a good rest of the day, everyone. Thank you and all the best.